Is it possible to record and go live at the same time?
Yes.
I have to do click, click. So I'm recording this, and it's also going to be transcribed through Zoom's AI, which is very nice. So if you hear any zingers, you want to turn them into memes later, I can give you that. So let me go live on Facebook here. Hey everybody, Brian King, the Mindset King here, coming to you as promised with two of my internet Facebook heroes, James Gaffney and Stephen. How do we say your last name?
I say Safak. In Turkish, it's actually Safak, but my parents thought that sounded too much like, shut the fuck up or something. So they just
it does.
Safak.
Adult language warning for those of you who are viewing today, because I typically this is the thing. Okay, it's all about authenticity. Show up, be who you are. I typically don't curse because I got little kids who copy me and stuff, but this is all about showing up, being who you are, and all kinds of other topics that we're going to discuss today. So speak as you would. Now, let me tell you why I got these guys together. I can't remember who I knew first. James, I've been connected with you for quite some time. And Stephen, at some point, I'm sure that you wormed in through a mouse hole or something and found your way into the house. But one thing I noticed, there's another guy that we follow, Brandon Marshall. And we're all in Brandon's group. And one thing I noticed is how Brandon, James, and Stephen are always trolling each other. And they go after each other in the most delightful ways, these incredibly brilliant zingers, one right after another, but none of it is mean-spirited. They're just kind of giving each other a hard time. It's very playful trolling. And I see how entertaining it is to other people to watch this and get on board, and they do a wonderful job of gaining attention and eyeballs just through this trolling. And I've typically only seen trolling in the most toxic forms of it. You see a lot of it on Twitter. You see some of it on Facebook. On Facebook, it's a little easier to control than on Twitter. But then I saw you guys who took it in a totally different direction. So first, tell me, how did that little playful banter come about between you three?
Stephen, you want to take it or you want me to take it?
I'll take this. I don't really know how it started. I know that I'm always going through shit. I'm a very quickly evolving person. So I don't really remember what it was like when I started effing around with James on Facebook. But Brandon was my real life friend. He used to live in Baltimore right down the street from me, and we would hang out and eat together and go to bars and stuff. We actually did some Facebook Lives where we were drunk in public talking to strangers. So look those up if they're still on.
Wait, you were drunk in public talking to strangers?
Yeah. Me and Brandon.
That's a reality show, man. That's more than just a Facebook Live.
I thought it was really funny. We were like on a quest to get milkshakes and all these things. Anyway.
Drunk history is, man, if you ever want to bust a gut.
I don't know how to explain it other than the vibrations are in alignment and our senses of humor are very similar. And so we're all very dry in our delivery and very sarcastic and kind of like a nothing is sacred kind of attitude. So, yeah.
Well, one thing I got to give you guys credit for is drawing me out in that way, because in private, people know me. I'm firing off one-liners right and left, but for whatever reason, I got it in my head that when I was on Facebook, I needed to be serious because I often deal with serious topics. I help people through some very difficult times in their life, and I thought I needed to maintain the professional demeanor at all times. And my clients would get on group calls with me, and I'd have them cracking up, and they'd say, why don't you do more of this on Facebook? Well, I really didn't know how to, but then you guys showed up. Again, the planet's kind of aligning again, where I see that mixture of seriousness and that sarcastic, whatever you want to call it. And I began watching you guys, and then I started chiming in a little bit in Brandon's group, seeing how it was received. And Stephen, you and I go back and forth very playfully, and it feels very natural, it's very organic. And that's just not a way that people are used to engaging on Facebook. But I think in a way it's very cathartic.
Well, I have 2 points to make. One, this is a caveat. it's not just that everyone should dive off the deep end and be insane all the time on Facebook like we are. Your vibe attracts your tribe. So it's more about being authentic. And that segues into my second point, which is like, this is how I actually am. Like in a social setting, I will say bizarre things. I will use abstract surreal humor. I will push people's buttons a little bit sometimes, you know? So really it's for me, from my vantage point, it was just about being who I am more and more fully and eroding those filters and those walls.
Yeah, and that's a good way of describing it, is bringing more of yourself to it. Saying, hey, there's this other part of me that I want you to see as well, and giving people more of a well-rounded view of you as opposed to just that polished self that stays in front of your background banner or whatever else you use to stage your professional look. James, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I was really going to say what Steven just said. I mean, it's really just about being, you know, authentic, and there's a lot of that kind of stuff that's preached, that it's only authentic to a certain point, you know, and it's only authentic until you start crossing over this professional barrier, and then you can't be as authentic because then all of a sudden you're unprofessional. But I think it really is. It's being authentic and just doing what you do. And the really cool thing about Facebook and social media is that you're able to find these people. Yeah, I've been able to find you guys. I was able to hang out with Steven. We're going to actually hang out in real life next weekend, which I'm stoked about.
So there will be a whole day of content from James and I live in person. We've got some funny ideas planned. So
it's going to get saucy.
Now, who started that 30 pieces of content in 60 minutes? Whose idea was that?
I think mine.
And it seems very stream of consciousness. Is that correct?
Absolutely.
So
yes.
What Steven does is, and you'll announce it, right? He says, okay, you're going to get 30 pieces of original content in the next 60 minutes. And then he just starts firing away these posts. And man, if I let my brain go like that and post everything, people would say, has his medication been refilled recently? I think he skipped something today, because there's some pretty outrageous things that go through my mind.
Yeah, but why not show them, right? I mean, you know, you're a small business. You can't handle 8 million clients. You don't need that many people to really vibe with your message and vibe with you to pay your bills.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Like maybe 30, you know, depending on what you're selling. And
right. I mean, and that's, you know, I think that there's all these hustlers and grinders out there that, you know, they're afraid to.
These filthy grinders are prowling the streets.
Yeah, they're everywhere. I can't.
Yeah, you got these people, and
it's just, you know, be yourself. You can't make everybody in the world happy. You couldn't serve everybody in the world. You couldn't, you know, if you had 20% of your friends list come to you for a sale, most of us couldn't handle that. So why not filter people? Why not burn your friends list down and kind of rebuild it with, you know, people that you've totally vibe with.
So being strategically provocative.
Yeah.
I mean, Steven, there's sometimes you put stuff up that is just totally outrageous.
Yeah. Is there anything you'd like me to comment on specifically?
I mean, I can think of some things, you know, like, I don't know, Stalin was my BFF or something, you know, just something that's so outrageous. Like
yeah, I mean, it's really about letting go and letting whatever comes out. And it's really funny. It's really profound. And there will be posts that I didn't expect. I did a stream of, I had it in my mind. I wanted to tag a page. I wanted to check in. So I checked in at Yellowstone National Park, and I said I went to Yellowstone National Park, and I checked in, and I said, this is a lie. This is a total lie. So I just added, just kidding. This is a joke. I didn't go there. I had people from, like, I don't want to be racist, but one of the East Asian countries, based on the script, was commenting, why? Why did you say this? They were researching the park, and they were looking for feedback, and they came upon my random troll post. So to me, that's just hysterical, you know? Yeah, it's about letting go of expectations. It's about letting go of fear of judgment. It's about, for for me, it's really about having fun. I'll be honest. I'm not like this with my business relationships. Most of my calls don't go like this. I'm typically pretty, focused on the goals, the challenges, and the relationships. So to me, I made a post and I said, some people build Facebook groups to grow their businesses. Some people build businesses so they can fuck around on Facebook. I kind of did things opposite. I've been an entrepreneur for 7-8 years. I've burned myself out over and over. I've done so many different things. I've got a good thing going now with the podcast production, with the consulting. So I can finally just fuck around on Facebook. You could delete my Facebook tomorrow and I would be fine. And that's a new place to be. And so again, I don't want to say that everyone should be like me, but I'm just explaining why I'm like this and why this is kind of happening on Facebook.
Cool. And what's your day job, Jim?
My day job?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm a designer.
What do you design?
Design and brand. Yeah, and I've been doing that for 20 years on my own. I have an agency. But I mean, truthfully, the more I play around on Facebook and the more I just let it all go, the more it comes back. It's not a self-serving thing really, but it pays for itself. As dumb as it sounds, it pays for itself. All the stupid stuff pays for itself. And it's a lot of fun. I mean, this is who I am. This is what you see on my Facebook profile is pretty much who I am. It's a little bit edited. I don't like to give away my kids' names and that sort of stuff, but it's me. And I'm like a lot of people out there that thought that there was only one way to do it, and that was the marketing, the marketing du jour way of doing it.
Oh, yeah, using all the keywords and all that kind of stuff. That it's 100 steps that you got to follow before you send somebody an instant message. Like, that's insane. And I see people put that stuff out all the time. It's got to meet these criteria, and it's got to follow this blueprint. And it's like they're telling you how to be a human being, and they're complicating things. But the both of you got me thinking about something. And this should have been more top of mind for me. But when you're showing those more eccentric aspects of your personality, you are more likely to attract people that are going to connect with that part of you. And when you're coaching somebody or working with them and you're going to be getting into some personal vulnerable stuff, it'd be nice if you were already connected on that level.
Absolutely.
And that's something I hadn't considered before, because I was just thinking, well, I got to impress upon them that this is what I do and it can solve their problem and they'll like it so much they'll want to sign up. Well, that ain't working.
Yeah.
So
well,
I like what you guys are talking about here.
Yeah. I just want to mirror what James said in that it was very bizarre. Like, once I started doing these, I call them content catastrophes now. Once I started doing them, I started to get referral emails and word of mouth referrals. And so I don't know. I don't know if there's a direct connection. There's probably not. I don't know if if it's just a coincidence, but that's cool. I am a little bit different than James in that I love posting content that name drops his wife and kids.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man.
Wait. So you will drop the names of the people James does not want to drop the names of himself?
He will.
You do each other's dirty work. It's like Five Eyes.
So is there some kind of whoopee cushion in store or something for when you two get together?
What do you mean by that?
Like, James is going to get you back somehow.
Oh, no. It's all love.
Well, that's what matters. When you're accusing each other of stealing one another's content and reporting each other to the authorities and so on, it's done from a place of love.
Dude, it's fine. He steals my content. We've dealt with it. We settled out of court. It's all good.
Yeah.
I just want you to know this is being recorded in 2 places, James.
As long as it's a consequence that Stephen learns from. Otherwise, it's a complete waste of time.
He won't learn. We'll just have to go back. We'll have to go through the legal process again in 6 months.
I mean, it's a weird blend of satire, too, because there's a lot of poignant points that you can see sprinkled into what we do.
I love it when all of a sudden you post something that is thought-provoking. I'm like, okay, Stephen's having a moment of clarity. Insight. Let's bathe in this for a little while and enjoy it, because something smart ass is coming right after.
Yeah, I get some decent engagement. I think I have to go dig back through and see. I don't care about the numbers. That's the thing is, if I cared about the numbers, I wouldn't be doing it. You know,
Yeah, it's about the right people engaging, not
how people say, if you had 37 minutes left to live, if you were going to die in 37 minutes, what would you do? I would literally sit down on Facebook and just blast off bullshit. Like that's how I feel about it. I love it that much.
I want people to remember me in the very puzzled way. The hell did he mean like that? I mean, I wish he would have lasted one more minute. I don't know what the hell he was talking about. But now it's going to be this earworm for the rest of my life. What was Steven trying to tell me?
I've written several books by this point, and they're all encoded.
Morse code.
It's like the Da Vinci Code / the Facebook / the Wiggles.
The Safak code.
Wow. That's like an LSD trip gone bad.
All right.
I've heard. You put those three things together.
You want to answer that one, James?
The Da Vinci Code and the Wiggles?
Yeah. It was just to be bizarre.
So you're finding that people that are, and this is, the numbers thing is such an important aspect of it. You see groups with 15,000 people in it, and then people want to sell a $1,000 course to teach you how to grow a 15,000 person group when you don't need 15,000 people to have a successful business.
It depends on your price point. It depends on the value of your average client, your sales cycle, the length of time you have your average client. I mean, and it also depends on how high of a level you manage your time, and how well you can prioritize the activities you invest in, how good your attention span and your focus is. I've operated at my peak performance was probably 26-16, like wake up super early, exercise every day, blah, blah, blah. Wear a fucking suit, every single day. So I don't live like that now, but I do know how to do it, and I do stay up to date with what's on the cutting edge of automation and systems technology. So I just like to be myself on Facebook, but if this was a business call, there's a whole other depth of knowledge there.
Yeah.
So that's Steven 2.0.
It's my shadow. It's my dark side, the businessman, Steven.
Well, the secret's out now, brother. There's no taking it back.
There is no dark side to Steven. There is no dark side.
I feel personally attacked.
Now, you guys are inspiring me here. Now, one thing that came up in our conversations, there was something I didn't know about either of you. And it came out in our conversations, and Steven wanted to get into this a little bit. And that is around labels. That we've all been given a specific label by the diagnostic community. Who wants to go first and share what that is?
I'd love to.
Go for it, Steven.
So I actually have a degree in clinical psychology, a certificate of addiction counseling, and I wanted to be that psychological healer guy.
Well, I have a master's in social work, so we're simpatico.
My sister has a master's in social work. That's awesome. Wait, what was the question? Oh yeah, label. So what is a diagnostic is a type of label. Specifically, what type of label is it? A diagnostic is a label that only somebody else can give you, and only from one holy book, which is only done categorically, never honoring polarity, spectrums. It's done categorically. And so there are aspects to it that can be tremendously healing. For one, naming things is important, but it's important for you to label your own stuff. And if there's enough alignment there with what's in the DSM and what the actual diagnostic is, or if there's emotional reasons why you're finally facing it, all these other factors come into play around diagnosing that are therapeutic and are helpful and do help people confront and work through and heal through their dysfunctions and issues. However, I'm only asserting that labeling or diagnosing is never needed for healing. Describing, honest self-awareness. These types of things are more important than the paradigm and the construct of diagnostics. So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Well, and what I was alluding to initially is we've each received a diagnosis of Asperger's or something on the spectrum, right?
I haven't. I've been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I've been diagnosed with major clinical depression. I've been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder and Asperger's.
Okay. Yeah, I was Asperger's, ADHD, dyslexia, and all the other medical stuff, the MS and whatever. And all three of my boys have Asperger's and ADHD. And I've seen it in the school system and socially, what can happen when someone else takes a little bit of knowledge about all the propaganda from the different parent groups and people that are raising funds and what their narrative is around what it means to be on the spectrum or whatever. And people take little bits and pieces of that, and then you disclose that to them, and they've already got a story about you. And that's where the label can be very, very complicated to unravel. Now, before we get into that too deeply, I want to hear James chime in on this.
That's exactly why we have 5 kids, my wife and I, and we've homeschooled them all. My oldest is 23, and we homeschooled him the entire way because I don't like labels. You know, I was labeled as certain things growing up, and I know that escaping that label was really, really hard. Not only socially, but for me, you know, I was either gifted and talented or a complete retard. And there wasn't a lot of space in between. And it wasn't until a lot later in my life that I realized that those labels were just something that they used to categorize me. It didn't really mean that was what I was. You know, the ADHD, the dyslexia, all that stuff. It was just my way of thinking. It wasn't that it was wrong. It wasn't that it was a disease. It wasn't that it was some handicap or some bullshit that I was going to have to carry my entire life. It was just me, but it was just their label that they used to put me into a cubby hole so that they could systematize, you know, how they handled my life. And so I don't like labels. I think they're very, very damaging. I think especially for kids, you know, so many kids get labeled as learning disabled, and they're not at all. They just learn differently. And that's why we chose to homeschool all of our children, because we have one son with epilepsy. All of our children have, you know, somewhere along that kind of spectrum. And we didn't want them to go into a system that forced a label of learning disabled on them, or, you know, handicapped in some way, because they're not. They're all brilliant, and they're all very well adjusted, and they can read and write and draw and do everything they need to do. But had they been put in school, they would have been expected to not be able to do that. And that was a recipe for raising another generation of me.
Well, and what I see the two of you doing now, you're obviously flourishing in very specific areas of, I don't know what you call it, you're specialists, essentially. And in the school system, one of the sins of that system is that they want you to be a generalist. And like you pointed out, James, our skill set is so lopsided. We rock in one area and we struggle everywhere else. Even in the mastermind that I belong to, they hear me in my zone of genius every week. And then there are little things like planning my calendar for the week, and I'm kind of stuck.
Yeah.
Like, hey, how come you can't do that? Well, that's where my brain starts bumping up against the world. And I was challenged on it this morning saying, that's a limiting belief. No, it's not. It's ADHD.
Yeah.
It's different. You know, you have to understand the difference. But
no,
what
you,
I tell,
you have
go
to
ahead.
be okay with it. And something Stephen alluded to, you know, is, you know, as entrepreneurs and as business people, you either muddle through it or you outsource it, or figure out a way to automate it. And, you know, automation has been a big boon to me. I spent really the first 18 years of my business life doing no automation and no social media for myself, or, you know, any kind of self-marketing. And then through meeting people like Steven and hanging out in some of the groups that we hang out in, started realizing that, you know, shit, this is how I can do it, because I had kind of hit a paywall where I didn't have any more effort to give, right? So I had to start automating things because I wanted to make more money. I didn't want to keep turning in the same 40 hours a week or 60 hours or whatever for the same amount of money for the rest of my life.
You can buy my course below. The link's below. It's $97.97.
It's totally worth it too. Totally worth it.
It's unfortunate.
And he sends nudes. Halfway through the course, you get a packet of nudes. It's amazing.
I send you a box of Cracker Jacks, but instead of a prize, it's a nugget of marijuana.
Do I even need to be here for this conversation?
Probably not.
Yeah, one thing that's unfortunate about, you know, the school system in general is that they pretty much give you the idea that you need to do it all by yourself. You know, you ask for help and they say, go back and try it again. You didn't try it hard enough. Try the different way that we discussed. And they teach you that asking for help is to be discouraged. It means that you're not trying hard enough. It means that you're a quitter. When, just as you alluded to, James, there are things out there, what do you call them? Kind of having difficulty word finding here. This is the MS and being later in the day. People you can outsource to, VAs, the virtual assistants. It can be for a little task. It can be for everything office related, but it allows you to stay within your zone of genius, something that the school system would not encourage you to do.
Yeah.
No, you can't just pay attention to that. You're never going to make a living at that. You can't do that all day long. You need to be good at all these little things. When, what have we discovered in our lives? Specialization is where it's at. I have a key to the lock you can't get into.
Do you think that it kind of implies that you're incapable? So that was one of my big things with school, was that I felt like they thought I was incapable.
Well, whenever they label you, using they loosely because we know it doesn't apply to everyone, it applies to a subset. When they label you, they immediately go about coming up with a plan to fix you.
Yeah.
What are your deficits? What's missing? Where are the gaps? And how do we remind you of the fact that you struggle in this area every time we sit down together? As opposed to building your areas of strength where you are likely to seek opportunities. You know, the kid that likes playing around with wood and building stuff is most likely going to ask for some kind of a saw or a kit to build something, as opposed to, can you buy me another math workbook? Because I really need to work on my long division. They're going to go towards the stuff they're passionate about. And if they can monetize that, bless them. That's where we need to encourage them to move.
And I also want to just point out something, kind of a tangent, but when it comes to specialization, we have to be careful, because when you have only specializations, when you don't have connecting the dots. And I think that one reason academia is so able to control thought is that you go down these tracks of hyper-specialization and you're told that you're the master doctor of this one subject, but you've not once spent any time linking that information to other areas of life. And I've often thought about, you know, if you had like the greatest biologist and the greatest physicist and the greatest electrician, you know, comparing their thoughts, you would have a very different model of reality. So it's important to connect the dots is all I'm trying to say. And, you know, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you do have to wear all the hats. You do. And you know, unless you have people that are, you know, from the get-go doing certain things for you. So,
well, that's also where
you wear all the hats until you can afford not to wear all the hats anymore.
Well, and that's also where a mastermind can come in. You know, you get get somebody who's a finance guy who understands the bookkeeping side of stuff in a way you never will. And then you can bounce things off that person. Somebody like James, who's awesome at the branding side of it. I'm colorblind. My visual spatial acuity is in the toilet. I'm almost 100% auditory. So I can find the right words. I can do wordsmithing. You know, what's the best way to tell my child or my spouse this without them, you know, driving a knife through my chest? I can come up with words like that. But if you ask me to come up with a budget or plan a trip, I'm not your guy. I got to ask somebody else for that stuff, and that's okay. Surround yourself with the people that are good at what you suck at, and your needs will be met.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Steven has taught me a lot about automation and back-end systems that, I have never implemented before. And, it's
Steven, I need a tutorial, brother. I need to automate more.
That's another nice thing about Facebook and being genuine and being open is that you really do. You start finding friends and people that come in and help you fill holes.
All kinds of holes.
While the rest of the world is afraid to put themselves out there because what if I upset somebody? What if somebody gets offended? What if I upset my mother-in-law? So much fear.
Am I clear to take off all my clothes now?
No.
Okay.
You've got 4 minutes left. Yeah.
When I stop recording and turn off your camera, go for it.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate
but
it.
Not before then.
Not wearing any underpants.
Okay. Well, I'll take your word for that.
You'll believe anything without a shred of evidence. Just kidding.
So, well, first of all, anybody that's watching live or the replay, I encourage you to follow these guys just to see how they roll, just to see how they play, because you're very fearless, and there's a lot of fear on Facebook, and it really doesn't serve anyone, because what you end up with is manufactured garbage, because people are trying to people please too much with what they post instead of just putting themselves out there and saying, this is me, who's like me, who wants to be a part of my tribe, who has these shared values.
For sure.
They're following somebody else's formula.
Mm-hmm.
And when you follow somebody else's formula, you're accepting a watered down version of that formula.
And I did that for years, and it cost me a couple $1,000 and got me nowhere business-wise.
There are infinite paths to high-level success. Ask every single Fortune 100 CEO has a apples and orange and pineapples, peaches, plums, and apricot story to how they got there. I'm telling you. And here's a pro tip. These ceramic bowls?
That's nice.
Okay.
And the car mounts for your phone?
Yes.
So I do like this for my live streams. I use a ceramic bowl with the car mount on top there.
Well, how industrious of you.
That's good, man. You're dropping some tech tips here. This is good. We're covering everything.
Automation.
Your live streaming hack for the day. It's a heck of a lot cheaper than what they tend to sell on Amazon.
I show one last thing with this pack of cards.
Oh, he's going to whip out his close-up magic now. Everybody strap in.
This is not a magic trick. This is just a lucky guess. 1 in 52 chance that it works. Okay? I turned one card in this deck upside down yesterday. I didn't look at it. I fanned them out, looked away, flipped one, shuffled them, stuck them back in. Brian, what card is face down in here? Or what's the one card that's flipped the opposite direction as the other cards?
3 of hearts.
3 of hearts. Let me just angle this table here so I can stand and show. Do we see the one?
Yep.
Watch.
Wow. You are the man.
Thank you. You too.
All right, guys. I know this was a little off the cuff and unscripted, but you definitely dropped some serious bombs today that I'm going to implement. And I hope all the rest of the folks that were kind enough to join us today do exactly the same. And like I said, follow these two, because if for no other reason, they're hilarious.
I'm available for anybody that wants help, and I'm not a money-hungry person. You can pick my brain all day long. I don't fucking care. I sit around. I pretty much work probably 3 to 4 hours a day, if that. So I love to just hang out on Facebook and talk to people, and I love to find people that are hungry for either business development knowledge or podcasting knowledge or life knowledge or anything. So don't worry. Don't feel intimidated about reaching out to me, and we can become good friends very easily.
3 to 4 hours a day, I'm sending you a to-do list, buddy. Nice. You're the first person I'm delegating to. Any parting words, James?
Have fun. Just have fun with it. Because, I mean, if with it all going to suffer, we're going to keep coming back.
It is.
People are attracted to fun.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's why the holiday industry is such a massive moneymaker. You know, people like fun. Have fun.
Gracie, hold on. Gracie,
That's going to be my new mantra. Have fun.
Yeah, it's easy. You can have it. I haven't trademarked that one yet.
So, Stephen, what are you stalling with?
I think he went to get his dog. Oh, there we go.
That's a groin puller right there. How much does that puppy weigh?
This is 50-50 pug boxer. Her name's Gracie. She had 16 homes her first year. She was a very out of control project puppy, and now she's a very good girl.
Well, and a beauty.
She is a beaut.
All right, gentlemen. Thank you once again. Hopefully we'll get a chance to do this sometime very soon. Everybody else, thanks for watching. Have an awesome rest of your week. This has been Brian, the Mindset King. We'll talk again soon.
You're awesome. Take care. Thumbs up.
You guys.
Ramble.